Welcome to Chatsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Chatsunami. My name's Satsunami and joining me today is the one and only Spin Dash Master herself. It is WysteriaMoth. Moth, welcome back.
Thank you so much. And honestly, I wasn't expecting the title, but you know what? We'll take it.
I was trying to think of other things. I'm pretending I'm the Mushroom Kingdom. Yeah, sure. I'm a Sonic fan. Sure. The Triforce Wizard. Yeah, I'm a Sonic fan. Oh, it's not even been a minute and already we've got the giggles.
No, listen, this happens every time we record anything. But you know what? Let's just roll with it. We got this. We got it. That just means we're having a good time.
You know, it is true. I think it's been over a year since you were last on the podcast.
Oh, don't say that.
I know it was the dark times.
Oh.
There was global paninis everywhere. There was it was a mess. It was dark times. I will agree. But those times aside, because clearly we're in better, more enlightened times as we talk about Sonic out of the lockdown.
Oh, absolutely. Unironically discussing Sonic as a serious topic on a podcast. Yes. We are on the other side. We are on the other side of the tunnel. We have become the light.
We are through the looking glass, people. We are ready. We've got 50 tabs open.
Well, no, honestly, listen, you joke, but I've actually been thinking about relevant topics to talk about on this podcast, and I'm unironically super excited to be here talking about it. So I'm super happy to be here.
I don't think you have any idea how excited I was when my co-host Adam turned around to me I think it was last year. He was like, oh, do you want to do a month on Sonic? And it's there's always a gif of a person or an animal just slamming against a window so fast and their face is pressed up and they're just yes, please.
Yes, please. But no, honestly, with the second you were like, hey, do you want to just do an episode where we talk about being Sonic fans? I was like that gif from My Hero Academia of baby Deku just rocking back and forth in the chair, just so excited. I'm like, yes, please.
I have to admit, and this is going to sound very strange, but I can't remember if it was after you and I had done our first interview together. And then I think we got to talking maybe for a half hour after. And we're just chatting about random things. And then we brought up the topic of Sonic. And then you were saying how you were a Sonic fan. And I was like, whoa. There's another Sonic fan.
No, honestly, it's just one of those things, all of a sudden you realize, there's another!
There can only be one.
There can only be one. It started a half an hour chat after we finished our first episode, which was lovely, by the way, because we chatted for a half an hour before, then we did the episode, then we kept talking after, and then all of a sudden, the second that I even let onto the fact that I was even remotely, tangentially even interested in Sonic, that was just it. It was gone. Lid off. That was it. No holds barred. Suddenly, we're both just being little gremlins have you seen this thing? And just passing things back and forth. And it was lovely because it's the thing about being a Sonic fan, right, is these last few years have been rough for us.
Oh, yeah, you could say that again.
It's been rough. And now it's almost kind of one of those things. It's whenever you say oh, you're a Sonic fan, you're a Sonic fan, it's almost been a meme, hasn't it? The second you let on that you're a Sonic fan, you get almost memed a bit, don't you?
It's always a low-hanging fruit, I feel, in the gaming sphere especially, and without naming any names, because I'm looking in the corner and my Red Panda lawyer is shaking his head saying, whatever you do not name any names, so... Yeah, okay, no, I won't name any names, but there's certain groups that may or may not be more famous than me for now. No, I'm only kidding. That sounds terrible. I'm coming for you. No. But, there's groups like Let's Players and gamers, artists, any content creator who will be ooh, Sonic, it's the weirdo's taste, if it was a brandy, it would taste very funky, and from the 90s, no doubt. But yeah, Sonic is one of those things that did have a prominent place in gaming history, especially in the 90s, and then obviously it kind of fell off in the 2000s. It was still popular, but it kind of fell off, and you're completely right. Ever since what fans like to call the Dark Age, age with Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic 06, those kind of games. That's the moment that everyone just slammed Sonic. They put it up on this big dartboard in the sky and said, we're getting a bullseye new here, and it's an easy bullseye to get with this franchise.
It really is. It was just rough because it's like the games that were coming out weren't that great. Sonic 06 being a really good example of that because it's so painfully obvious that the game itself was rushed. Like if they wouldn't have tried to put out the game to be a launch title with the PS3 and actually had some time to make better decisions with certain aspects of the game, it would have been a decent entry. But the fact is, when they released it, it was a buggy control aspect, was just like, especially depending on which platform you played it on to begin with, was already just all over the place. So it was just really, really rough being a Sonic fan. But the thing is, right, it's like the Sonic fandom, I don't really think that it ever really fell off. I think it just had its very, very specific designated spaces, and no one really bothered to go to those places. Like no one that wasn't in the know for the franchises and things like that never really bothered to even poke their nose in to see what it looks like in those spaces, because they open them up and be like, I wonder what's in here. All of a sudden they get bombarded by a bunch of teenagers / grown men posting all sorts of art and fan fiction and things about like little furry animals, and then doing God knows what with them as well. They just close the door and go like, okay, yep, that's not for me. But talking about being a Sonic fan in like the early 2000s and stuff like that, I was definitely in that generation of the Sonic fans. And I was also a part of the online aspect of it as well. I was in a lot of those fandom spaces, doing all the fandom stuff. I had my own characters as well. Some of like my oldest OCs started as Sonic characters, and I'm not even ashamed to admit that. You know, it's actually kind of funny now. I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here about it, and I'm sort of jumping all over the place. But like, Sonic is really, really important to me. And for a while, I was really almost ashamed of my fandom because of some of the stigma that was like, you talked about it as well, like talking about like, you know, we're an easy target for some people to meme on us and be like, hey, look at those kids over there, they're open season, let's go make fun of those guys over there. I look at my relationship with the Sonic fandom and being a member of the Sonic fandom as being such important formative memories for me as well. Sonic games were some of the first games I ever played. The first time I actually was playing a video game and genuinely loved it was Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. And oh boy, the amount of time I spent on that game is astronomical. I think you can agree. We all had, like, as a Sonic fan, we all had that one game that we just played to death.
Oh no, absolutely. I always remember when I was growing up, my brother had a Mega Drive / Genesis, and I always remember he had Sonic, but I was never really into it. I'm going to be honest, and this is probably one of the things that I might get cancelled for as like a video gamer, to be like, oh, he doesn't like retro stuff, get him. You know, I'm not big into that. Going back to games, usually it takes a certain type of game to go back to, because you know that way that mechanics have evolved and everything, and you would rather play a game that was stable and actually, you know, you have fun with it. I mean, I like Sonic 2, but the first Sonic, I couldn't get into it, really. I thought it was okay, but it's a product of its time. But I totally agree, the one that I really got into, and this is something I've said quite a lot in the podcast, but the one I got into was Sonic Adventure, because my brother, when he grew up, he bought a Dreamcast, and I remember when I was young, and I think either I was going to a dentist appointment or I was going out somewhere, and I saw he was off school at the time, and he was playing, I think, you know, the first battle versus Chaos in Sonic Adventure.
Oh, wow. That's a throwback.
Oh, and I remember seeing that, and I was just so enamored. I was like, oh, this looks so cool. And, you know, my dad was ushering me out the door like, that's nice, now come on, we have to go. And I'm like, no, you can't make me.
Let's go, son, we got places to go. But no, honestly, listen, if you get canceled for not really caring for the OG Sonic games, I'm right there with you. I'm on the struggle bus with you, because like I said, my first exposure to Sonic was through Sonic Adventure 2. And so going back and playing some of the older games, because, you know, like they released a couple, like they released like the big collections of like the older Sonic games on PlayStation, the GameCube. You had like these, just like the Mega Collection, Sonic Gems, I think, was another one that they had as well. And I had those. My brother had those, actually. I would go back and try to play the older games. I'm like, this just isn't as fun. Now, it's funny you should mention you sort of mentioning or like getting into Sonic Adventure by watching that first fight with Chaos, because my exposure to Sonic Adventure 2 was actually quite similar, because it was my brother and his best friend were playing, and I was walking by the room that they were in as they were playing, and I just heard this really cool song playing. I'm like, what are they playing? And I go in there and I look at the screen, and normally like listen, I was a typical bratty little sister from the late 90s, early 2000s, right? I was the one that at every opportunity I took a dig at my older brother just because he was my older brother. And so I remember walking into the room while they were playing this game, and what they were actually playing was City Escape. And so I just remember the City Escape theme song, Little Escape from the City is the name of the song, obviously. But I just remember, like, it was the music that got me into Sonic first. And then I would sit there and watch them play the game. I was like, can I have a try? And they actually had to help me get through part of the level because I didn't know how to do the little somersault. So I couldn't actually get through the boxes. Like, you'll probably know exactly the first bit I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you know exactly the bit I'm talking about where you can't progress and go down the stairs on the rail because the boxes are there. So you have to somersault through them. Yeah, I didn't know how to do that. And so they had to show me how to do it. So I couldn't even finish the level the first time I played. But it was all downhill from there. It was all downhill from there. Like, it was a slippery slope, ass first, straight into being a Sonic fan, and I've been there ever since.
I was going to say, it's okay, you're amongst friends here. You can let it all out, it's okay.
It's my heart! But no, honestly, and I feel like the games sort of grew with me to a certain point, and then I found peers online, like I was talking about earlier. I was really into the spaces where you would find like-minded individuals online and things, like the old message boards, the old forums. Oh boy, they were a lawless wasteland back in the day.
Oh yeah, no, preach. As I said before, I always remember getting into it because I saw that initial clip and I think I played some of it in the Dreamcast, but because it was my brother's console, I was like, oh, I'll only play a wee bit, and then obviously he would take over and be like, oh, I'm playing this. So I never really got to play all of Adventure at the time, but then I remember I was in the shops once and then I saw that Sonic Adventure 2 was on the shelves, and that was the DX version for the GameCube, so I was like, oh, can I get this? And my mum thankfully was like, oh, you can. And I always remember I got it that day and I was really annoyed because one of my friends from school came over that exact day and I was like, I just want to play Sonic Adventure 2. Because I played the original.
Like, can we just agree that the opening for that game, especially back in the day when you first witnessed it, was the single coolest thing in the world?
Oh, it's amazing. Both of them are just so iconic. You know, the first one literally starts with all of these police officers trying to Robocop a water monster. And it's like, oh no, our bullets are useless. Fall back. And then they go. And then that's it. It's like, they never turn up again. You're like, oh, this police force is very effective.
Okay, bye. Like, thanks for nothing.
And then in the second one, it's like, oh no, our helicopter's useless. Fall back. So he jumps out, you know. What is wrong with these people? Anyway.
But no, listen, can we talk about the budget that Gunn must have had to have a fucking truck that big to chase down a singular hedgehog? What was the purpose of that truck?
I have got so many questions about Gunn. So for anyone who doesn't know and is by curiosity listening to this, Gunn is like the military organisation of this world, but they're very controversial, problematic. I feel like if they were in the real world, there would be like a lot they would have to apologise for.
Oh god, yeah. They would violate so many tenets of, like, oh my goodness, listen, they would be on everybody's shit list for some of the shit that they do. Oh, good lord.
I mean, they've shot kids, they've done property damage, they've probably killed a lot of people in City Escape. You know, all those cars go flying, there's no way they're not coming down somewhere.
Oh, exactly. And listen, their budget for collateral damage and coverage must be astronomical. I think that's where all the money goes. It goes to the legal team.
Oh yeah, like 10 trillion on a giant truck. It's like, why we spending 10 trillion on a giant truck?
And that's just for the insurance. That's just to insure it. That's not even to pay for the truck.
Yeah, it's like, you want how much to fly to space? What? Oh god, don't even get me started on Gun in space. They are.
Lord.
So no, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll that's a whole other can of worms. We'll crack that open in a second.
Going back to what you were saying about the online forums being a wasteland of, oh, what is it they say in Star Wars again? A hive of scum and villainy. That was it.
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
I have seen 6 of the Star Wars films, do not remember a damn thing about them. That is not my wheelhouse.
Well, you're with a fellow shitposter here, so you're all good. But yeah, it was such a, I don't want to say weird place. It was quite a unique place. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory term to be like, oh, it's unique. Or when you were talking about people coming into the community going, oh my God, and then, running away again.
Because that's all very surface level, isn't it? But then like the people that you meet, because I completely agree. It is such a unique experience being on those forums because I never knew that many people in my life that I could talk to about this thing and them not get sick of it and them actually have things to say back to me.
Because the thing that I found really surprising when I went on these, forums, like every Sonic fan probably has gone through this at one point, but you go in these groups, the forums, you'll get like the role players, the OCers and everything, and it's definitely almost like a safe space. Before that whole term of, safe space and everything was like universal and everything, but you could definitely tell with the people you were talking to that they were creating these characters because, and this is something that I have to admit, even in my own channel, when I did my 12-hour celebration stream, we dedicated 3 hours to do a Sonic OC competition. And it was all for fun and everything. We decided to submit all of these really daft Sonic OCs, like saying, oh, my name's like Jim the Hedgehog and I don't like ice cream, that kind of thing.
Oh, God.
On the one hand... On the one hand, there's a lot of shared qualities to these OCs, and it's obvious who's created them. You get ones who are like, they're really well done and everything, and they're quite fleshed out, and you're like, okay, obviously this is an older person that's created this. But you always knew it was like younger kids who would make these, when it was like, my name is Dark Flame, the Hedgehog, and I'm 18 years old. They were always 18 for some reason. They were never in their 20s or 30s, because that's too old.
That's too old, but they want to be adult. They want to be taken seriously. 18.
Yeah, exactly. But then it would always be like petty things that they would put in their likes and dislikes. Likes, I like ice cream and my sword who speaks to me and everything. It's like dislikes, I hate Eggman, I hate Injustice, I hate my friends being hurt. Then it would be like a random one just thrown in there. I don't like the dentist. And I'm like, sorry?
So, okay. I mean, neither do I. Pop off, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, oh, so you're like an interdimensional spirit demon from the Shadow Realm or whatever, and it's like, you have dentists there?
Well, I mean, listen, if he got teeth, you gotta have somebody take care of him, don't you?
I would love to see that sitcom of just like a dentist in hell. I'm sure there's a joke in there, but I'm not going to make it.
The dentists in hell, the dentists are from hell, so they can't actually set up a practice there, I don't think. But like an interdimensional dentist, now that could be something.
That's the OC we want to see.
That's exactly it. Right now, write that down. Somebody needs to make an OC that's an interdimensional dentist. It needs to happen.
Write that down.
Write that down. We'll make millions. But the thing is, right, like when you were talking about like, oh, you had the OCers, you had the role players, I just kind of felt 2 little flags pop up on my back because I was both of them. I was that kid on the forum. I had 7 different OCs, and these OCs were like the first proper characters that I had ever concocted. And I'm not even gonna lie, the first couple of them were just blatant, what they would refer to back in the day as Mary Sue's. They were just blatant self-inserts where I just wanted to project myself into this world that I loved so much because I just wanted to be there. The ones who followed afterward, especially as I got older and everything like that, like I didn't actually enter the forum spaces until I was at least 12, 13 years old, right? So I was teenager, middle school, going into high school, that sort of deal. And high school is a whole other can of worms as well when it comes to being a Sonic fan because, you have we'll get to that in a second. But my original point being having that sort of identity online as an OC creator and then eventually a role player, it opened up so many aspects of my life that have just become actual pillars of my interactions with people. I have met people, I still speak to people that I met on those forums 10 years years ago, 15 years ago. Like, my best friend in the whole wide world, I actually met on one of those Sonic forums role playing with him. And we still speak to this day. And even my partner, I met my partner on one of those forums and we became best friends. And we're still, I moved to a different country for him. So it's like, it's so weird to think that this one little niche community affected the trajectory of my whole life in such a way. And it's just wild to think about.
I was going to say, that was one hell of an OC then.
I know, right? No, honestly, because like role playing was the gateway to creative writing for me. I realized that I really, really liked it. I always liked to read. I loved to read. I loved to consume media that had creative writing involved with it. I loved it. I never thought that I could do it myself. And it was only through role play that I realized that I could do it. And of course, I started off being that silly little god modding, like all knowing, like little, I know what you're going to do before you even know what you're going to do. I did all of that, right? I did every bit of that. But then I found as I got older and I matured, my characters matured with me. My writing, as I started getting my voice in writing, my writing style matured with me. And even now, I still write short stories and stuff like that. It was my start as a role player that laid the groundwork for that. And some of my oldest characters have matured with me and they've actually expanded into their own right rather than just being the little animal in a Sonic comic that I drew in middle school.
I mean, you make a very good point there, though, because like looking back to what I was saying before, it definitely does seem like a lot of people who do gravitate towards the forums and everything, it seems as if everyone was trying to find a space where they could share this general interest. And I mean, me especially, like I saw my fair share of, as I said, and apologies for repeating myself, the OCers, the role players, everything. Some good, some completely despicable, but that's kind of part and parcel of it.
There's always going to be that dark underbelly.
Yeah, there's a dark underbelly and then there's a Sonic one, but we'll get to that, don't we?
Yeah, we're just going to put it down for now. We'll come back to it.
Just put it here, just watch it for us, dear listener. We will be back.
We will be back. Be careful, it does bite.
Yeah, if it starts moving, just, kind of vacate the premises, please.
Don't look it in the eye.
Yeah, this is turning more into like one of those backroom videos. If you disappear, it's your own fault for accepting the parcel.
Pass the parcel.
Pass the OC.
Oh God! Oh God! No, that just. Oh no! Keep going. What were you saying?
And a kind of more positive point there. It does feel as if a lot of people who were creating these OCs, whether they were cringe or whatever, I think the thing that people originally forgot was the fact that these were mainly kids and teenagers who were making them, and it definitely came at a time where I suppose people couldn't really record or have records of these OCs the same. They couldn't say, oh, did you have an OC back in the day? It's like, yeah, but that website shut down, so haha, try getting me now.
Side eyes my old DeviantArt account.
Yeah. I was like, deactivates.
Exterminatus.
You'll make the Emperor proud.
Burn it from existence, it was never there.
Just chanting in Latin. That's the thing, though. It definitely felt as if these were characters that provided an escape for people, because it's easy to turn around and go, oh, that's a cringe OC and everything. And if they're being obnoxious towards people, then, they're going to learn a very hard lesson about, oh, you should probably tone it down a bit or someone's going to knock you down a peg. But at the end of the day, you can definitely tell that these characters gave these fans a sense of, I suppose the word's autonomy within a realm where they had complete control. They might have been a Mary Sue Hedgehog, but at the same time, they were a Mary Sue Hedgehog on their own terms. They could have superpowers. They might get bullied at school, or they might be going through a rough time in their life, and God knows I've gone through so many rough times, and I've managed to fall back in those communities and things like that, whether it be Sonic or other things. But at the end of the day, this provides people with that kind of outlet. And don't get me wrong, before the violins start kicking in here, I know that there are some people who are quite, lack of a better term here, to take the piss with it, with their interests, as it were, and, they're not there to get away from it, they're just there to kind of put on their perversions and whatever on, like, certain aspects of the Sonic fandom. But at the end of the day, I feel as if that's heavily overlooked, that there's a lot of people who use Sonic as, like, a kind of comfort world. And it's not just Sonic, people have made Pokemon OCs, they've made, I don't know if Mario Mario OCs exist. I don't think I've ever seen a Mario OC.
I have. Like, I've seen, like,
Really?
yeah, like Mario princesses, like making themselves into princesses or coming up with new
Oh.
princesses and that sort of deal. And I think it's super cute.
That is actually. I thought you were going to say they were coming up with new plumbers.
They're coming up with a new what now?
Plumbers.
Oh, no.
His nose is much bigger than Mario's. It's like, why would you do this?
I mean, like, there's probably one out there. I guarantee you, like...
Oh, yeah, there will be. Yeah. By statistics, definitely. There is a Mario OC out there.
The rules of the internet. There was a rule for that. If it exists, there's an OC of it. There has to be. But it's so funny because it's like a lot of these points are really hitting home with me, especially because it's like I definitely used my role playing as a form of escapism because like I won't go into it, but I was bullied pretty hard in school, especially like being the Sonic fan, being the girl that was into nerdy stuff and stuff like that, being the girl that sat in the back of the class doodling comic panels in her notebook and stuff like that. And my first thing that I ever learned to draw were Sonic characters. So being that weird kid definitely got me a reputation in school. I was a pretty easy target for bullying. But then I would come home to that safe space that I had created, this safe group of people that I could go to. And I was somebody who was important on some of the forums. I'm not going to like name any names or anything like that because I mean, I do have some shame, but not so much shame. It's like I do have some things that I'm not willing to air on the internet. So I'm not going to name any names or anything like that. But on some of the forums, I actually ended up being in like admin positions and stuff like that, especially as a teenager. So I'd be like the kind of person that would like help with the actual running of the websites and stuff like that. And I would help with managing the forums and stuff like that. And like I said, I met some of my dearest friends through that as well. Just sort of having that sort of safety net to come back to was honestly something really helpful. So even if we were getting absolutely shit on for the quality of the games coming out at the time, if we were taking L after L after L, at least there was something that we could all come together to agree with. It was also about this time when I was in high school that I discovered the Archie comic series as well. And that opened up a whole other aspect inside of things that I didn't even know existed. And I discovered artists and stuff like that I still look up to this day that did work with Sonic comics. And even some artists from, like I mentioned, the old DeviantArt account. Yes, I have a DeviantArt account. My Sonic OCs are there. I'm not telling you what it is. But like I remember following some artists on there and I would interact with them as well. And now those artists are working on the IDW comics. And that blows my mind now. And it's just like how much one franchise can sort of build somebody's world is astounding to me. Or be a foundation to build somebody's world on.
It is absolutely amazing. You're completely right. This is the thing though. It's not just a franchise that unites video gamers. At the end of the day, Sonic is a video game. So you would think, oh, it's only video gamers that are into it. Don't get me wrong, that's like a huge portion of it. But of course, you've got other people as well in there. As you said, you've got artists, you've got people who write maybe fan fiction about it, people who create their own worlds, people who make their own videos as well. Like, I mean, I've seen I've seen so many fan videos that people have made, whether that be the Sonic Paradox series, whether that be Nazo Unleashed, which is fantastic.
I was hoping you would bring up Nazo Unleashed. Thank God.
Now, I think there's a Venn diagram out there where it's like Sonic fans, Dragon Ball Z fans, and it's just a perfect circle.
Yes.
There is so much overlap between them, obviously, because there's like the power up in the game where if you collect the Chaos Emeralds, you become Super Sonic, which is just like a yellow form. And of course, in Dragon Ball Z, you've got the yellow hair that spikes up for the
Super Saiyan
form.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so it's not exactly the same, but it's like very similar. There's a lot of similarities.
There's a lot of parallels, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's like you bring up Nazo Unleashed and stuff like that. There was another one that I actually followed back in the day, which was, and I've actually seen, I think that the people are starting to like jokingly remaster the series, and it was Super Mario Brothers Z, which...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you know exactly what
I know.
You know, you've been there. But no, it was just like one of those things, so like again, you're talking about like the Sonic Dragon Ball Z Venn diagram being a circle. Yeah, it's very much that, because literally the whole thing is just Sonic characters and Mario characters getting into Dragon Ball Z fights. And that was the peak of entertainment back in the day.
You're right. It's a completely goofy concept of like these family-friendly characters getting into fist fights and things like that. Where's my money, Sonic? Like beating each other up. But at the same time, though, it was just so well animated.
That's exactly it. They were so fun to watch because they were well made. You had people who were teaching themselves a whole skill to do this sort of thing. And how cool is that?
There's a lot of content creators, I think, that have have had their start in Sonic. For example, the creator of Nazo Unleashed, I think he's an animator. Like, I mean, obviously because he created that, but he started on Newgrounds and he went on to animate his own stuff. Because I always remember he was working on a sequel to Nazo Unleashed, and I think he managed to get like the intro done and kind of storyboard it and everything. And then he said, "Oh, it's going to be out in 2019," and then he pushed the date back. And then obviously the Great Padini, as I mentioned, that happened, and then straight after that, it was like, yeah, I'm not releasing this. I've got too much to do.
Oh no.
You know, on the one hand, you think, oh, that's rubbish because it's so nostalgic. But on the other hand, you think, well,
fair enough.
Yeah, you've got to live your life. You've got to expand on things. Like, if you're going for a job, I don't know, unless you're going for a job in Sega, I don't know how many companies who are, you know, into animation and things are going to look at Sonic animations and be like, hire this man.
Yeah, exactly.
Hire him right now.
Find this man.
Kind of going back to one of the points you were talking about earlier, I just want to bring this up because you were talking about how, you know, it wasn't cool to like nerdy things back in the day. I completely agree. Even when I was growing up, there was certainly a stigma behind, maybe not video games. Video games were starting to become kind of cool, but, you know, things like Dungeons and Dragons, superheroes, comics, that kind of thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, you'll still get your bullies nowadays, but they weren't as prevalent as they are nowadays. Like, obviously, because of the MCU with Marvel, comic books have taken a great boon. Critical Role, you know, you've got Dungeons and Dragons and Stranger Things as well with that, so it feels like a different world compared to the one we grew up in. I mean, not drastically, but it was definitely quite different. So, of course, when you did retreat into these worlds, you know, it was that, as you said, it was that safe space where you had complete control. And even whether that be through fan content or even with the games as well.
But can I just say, it can be really easy to sort of find a bitterness with that sort of revelation that these spaces that were once very sacred and special to us, but ostracized by others, but now that these spaces are becoming more open and more people they're becoming more accepted, even mainstream, like again with things like Critical Role and stuff like that, it can be really easy to become very bitter about it. But goddamn, I'm so happy to see that now. I am so pleased that I can say, yeah, I'm a Sonic fan, and people kind of be like, maybe a little bit like, okay, or, you know, somebody else can be like, oh dude, yeah, Sonic is really cool, isn't it? I always tell this as well, because like where I work, we have a bit of a younger clientele, so every time I see a little group of cosplayers come in, I am overwhelmed with joy. Like, I'm so happy to see that kids, because I remember again being bullied so harshly at their age, but now that they have this acceptance and they have this sense of self so strong for them that they can go out into these spaces and be themselves, it does my heart good. Like, it does my heart so good to see that these spaces are opening up to people and people can be safe and be secure in what they enjoy. And that in turn helps me feel better about being a Sonic fan, because I mentioned a bit earlier in the podcast that I didn't always openly announce that I was a Sonic fan, even though like you found out that night after the podcast, like the first one we did, we spoke for like almost over an hour about it, you know? And so it's just like, but now that I can feel a bit more comfortable in admitting to that part of myself, it's liberating in a way. Like, I'm even going back and redesigning my old Sonic characters for like healing my inner child right now. Like, I'm not even joking. I have a sketchbook. I have redesigned versions of my old characters in a sketchbook right now. And it has just been so cathartic to sort of revisit these old characters and these old places that I created in my mind and breathe a little bit of new life into them as an adult and as a different kind of fan.
It is just so good that, again, as you said, like a younger generation can completely feel comfortable in expressing themselves. I remember years ago, I can't remember what comic it was, if it was like Penny Arcade or something, but it was one of these online comics where it showed you the main characters like a child who was playing a Game Boy and he goes, oh, Pokemon. And then when he's a teenager, he's like very, you know, gloomy and he's like, you know, I'm not into Pokemon. He's quite very emo and down. And then it gets to college/university. And again, he's like, Pokemon. And they're all playing together. That's exactly how I felt, I have to admit. Like, I definitely went through a stage where, when I was younger, loved games like Pokemon, Sonic, Banjo-Kazooie, those kind of games. And then when they got to a certain age, I've said this before, it's a stupid mentality, but you're a kid and you have all these societal expectations thrust upon you at that age. You have to, become a bit more mature, you have to kind of grow up. And when I was playing these video games, I was like, right, I have to play more mature games now because I'm becoming an adult soon. And I play games like Halo, Call of Duty, those kind of things. And don't get me wrong, obviously that's not the case. You can play games for younger audiences and still be a mature adult. You don't have to be defined by that. But that was kind of the mindset. It wasn't until I got to uni where I completely agree. I was like very comfortable with saying, oh, I'm a Sonic fan and everything, or I'm a Pokemon fan, I'm all these gaming types of fan. I am the fan, but
yeah, the Omnifan.
Omnifan, fear me.
Fear me. You find me everywhere, nowhere safe from my influence.
You see your curtains billowing, it is I, the Omnifan. But that terrible OC aside, I'll work on that later.
We gotta be careful. We can't use the initials.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Well, no, because that's how you reel people in. If you learn nothing, with marketing.
True, actually. Fair enough.
Hey boys, you want to see my fans? I mean, we reel them in, we get that paycheck, and then we get out of there.
That's exactly it. And then we dip before they know what happened.
And the words of Sonic says, you get out of there.
And this has been the Bad Advice Power Hour with Chatsunami and WysteriaMoth.
And yeah, if you would like to see more of our content, no, I'm only kidding. I was going to say, you can catch us on omnifan.com. For legal reasons, that's a joke. Oh. Please don't look that up because I always make joke websites and I'm like, I'm fearful that one day it's going to be real.
The panda lawyer is furiously waving his paws in the background.
He's shaking his wee tiny fist at me. I'm dicing with death here. If you don't hear from me in 5 minutes, that's why.
Oh, God.
My legal troubles and brainstorming aside. Yeah, can you tell I got kicked out of business school? It is so nice, though, that nowadays there are a lot more spaces for people to express themselves, and especially for the nostalgia as well. It's good to be able to go back and revisit these games, because that was one of the reasons when I started doing my Twitch streams in 2020, one of the things I really wanted to do was share my love of childhood games. So I'd play Call of Duty games and things like that, but I would also play Sonic Adventure, and I remember playing that, and that was actually one of the first games I played where someone gave me a compliment in the way I streamed and everything, and that gave me such a confidence boost. I was like, oh my god, people like this content, they like Sonic and everything. It's it's not a shameful taboo that I should be stuffing into the wardrobe or anything like that. It's something that I can openly say, oh yeah, I'm a Sonic. And I know that's obviously it's not the worst thing to say, oh, I'm a Sonic fan, but seeing that point, going into the bad aspects, or rather the bad perceptions of Sonic with the general public, I would say, because as you pointed out at the very beginning, and aptly so, being a Sonic fan has its sense of memeability, doesn't it? Whenever those certain Let's Players or other content creators, and here's the thing, I'm not against, people saying, oh, Sonic bad, it's like, oh, fair enough, you don't like Sonic. I'm not saying, oh, you have to say Sonic's good, because I have to admit, I saw my fair share of people saying, oh, I hate this Sonic game, but then the fans...
Oh, God, the White Knights coming out in droves. My God.
Be like, Sonic 06 isn't a bad game and everything, and oh, it's an undersold masterpiece. Does anybody else like Sonic 06? It's obviously kids that are getting a bit hyper defensive. Well, kids and man-children, probably.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell that. I suppose that's kind of partly why people make fun of it, so I don't see a problem with poking fun at a franchise, because I've poked fun at it, and I've poked fun at other franchises along the way, but there's a very fine line, and it's not just with Sonic, it's with any franchise that people like. There's a fine line between people who are aptly criticising something or poking fun, and people who are just being downright malicious and kind of saying that you should feel bad for being a Sonic fan. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, you're pretty much spot on there, because it's the thing is, right, is that it definitely was was one of those polarizing fandoms to be in, because it's like, if you were a Sonic fan, it was pretty much, you were like the height of cringe, especially if you had the Sonic character and everything like that. Oh my god, you were the height of cringe. And it didn't help that was reinforced again by those white knight commenters and stuff like that, who would just absolutely say some of the most out-of-pocket shit to anyone who dared say that, dare have a negative opinion about anything that came out in that time. It was a really tumultuous time to be a Sonic fan at that point, because it was like, there was the whole group of us that was like, you know, we sort of kept to ourselves. We had our little groups that we would be in, and we would be able to like have our little areas where we would operate, and all would be fine, well and dandy and everything like that. But then, yeah, there absolutely would be a sort of negative downside to it, because again, like I said, you have the external bullying when I was a kid and everything like that, and then the online, some of the things you would get online as well. And then especially when games would come out and they wouldn't be that great, they'd get really bad reviews, they would have issues with ports and stuff like that, Sonic Unleashed being a big one for that one. It was at the Wii version of the game that was just absolutely abysmal.
Yeah, it seemed more linear because of the obvious technical issues with the Wii compared to the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. Yeah, it was just menu based, I think, and a lot more linear, which, this is my controversial take of the night, if I'm going to be honest, I think I would have preferred that a lot more in the 360 version at times.
Oh yeah, I played the 360 version of it, so that was the only, oh no, it wasn't 360, it was the PlayStation version I played, so that was the only version I ever knew. So I liked it, I thought it was a good game, I had fun, and it did something different. I think the biggest problem with the Sonic fandom is this whole group of them that wanted, or I should say this whole group of us, because I'm a part of it, right? There was this whole group of the Sonic fandom that wanted them to go back to the old platformer formula, like the 2D platformer, and arguably in some of the newer games like Sonic Generations, Sonic Colors, I really didn't like the 2D platformer side of things. I felt like that the switch between the 2D and the 3D was so jarring that I would lose my momentum. And in a Sonic game, if you lose your momentum, that's not good. Because the whole purpose of a Sonic game is to build momentum and to maintain the momentum. And I feel like that was the biggest crux of the issue for the Sonic games going forward. But it was just always this massive vocal part of the fandom that was just like, this isn't what we want, so we don't like it.
That's probably my main complaint of the fandom, because I feel as if obviously a large chunk of them are going to be kids, but there's a large chunk of them as well that, and it is probably the vocal minority here, that are calling for these changes. Because I'm going to be honest, and this is probably a controversial take, but I don't think Sonic fans know what they want. And I think I brought this up in the Sonic Month episodes, but I think it's because this is like the double-edged sword. On the one hand, Sonic has gone through so many iterations. You've got the old retro games, you've got the multitude of Dark Age games, you've got the Boost era and the Modern Age, quote unquote, because it's technically no longer modern, but you know, you've got all of those different play styles. So it almost reminds me of, do you remember the Itchy and Scratchy episode where they introduced Poochie and they get all the kids in a room to do the focus group?
Oh god.
It's the guy trying to figure out what the kids want, and they're like, you want a realistic, down-to-earth show with killer robots, and you should win things by watching. You know, all of these different styles just do not mix. It's like water and oil. They just keep clashing. So to appease everyone, they say, oh, we're going to put in, as you said, the 2D platforming and everything, which, I'm going to be honest, I hate it. I absolutely hate it, because I love what they did with the Sonic Adventure games. The fact you could traverse the area, the fact that there was that freedom to explore the area as well, and you'd be rewarded for exploring it. But then after the Sonic Adventure games, they're like, oh, okay, we're going to dial it back a bit, and that's when we got Heroes and Shadow and 06 and everything, which are probably lesser liked.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, Sonic Heroes, I loved it. I wish I could play that game again. I miss that game all to hell. But yeah, even I can admit that it wasn't the strongest entry. Soundtrack was a banger though. Shadow the Hedgehog, good lord, I was obsessed with that game because I was an edgy little shithead back in the day. So, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, and I think that you have it pretty much spot on. There's a segment of the fandom that's just like a whole group of people that's just like, we don't know what we want, but we want it now. And it can be just really, really sort of disheartening to sort of watch how it all went down. But, and this is a big but here, and this has sort of renewed my faith as a Sonic fan. Sonic fans have eaten good in 2022, haven't we?
That is true. Yeah, we've got a multitude of content.
We did, and it was good content too. Like, listen, Sonic Frontiers, oh boy. Woo! Oh, listen, you want to talk about doing something new with a Sonic game and it actually working out? When I was first hearing about Sonic Frontiers, and especially after the delay, people were like, oh, this open zone thing isn't going to work. When really, it was probably one of the most fun aspects of the game for me. And people was like, oh, the delay, it's going to be bad. I'm like, no, listen, delay it. Put that shit on hold, please. Fix it. Like, make sure it's good before you put it out, please. And it worked out for them. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that the game is immaculate. I certainly have my fair share of criticisms for the game, but you can still have an enjoyable experience and be able to criticize the media itself. And that's what I really like about it. And it's gotten me feeling that sort of giddiness that I haven't felt for a Sonic game since Sonic Adventure. And that's wild to me.
I definitely agree that they are back on track a little bit. Like, I do have my gripes about Sonic Frontiers, and don't get me wrong, I will be talking more in depth about that in a future episode. So if you are listening, Super Shadow, the person who I am doing the episode with, first of all, hello. Thank you for listening. Second of all, yes, I will be talking to you. You'll know when you listen to this. You'll be like, oh, Satsu, you better watch.
No, listen, I would love to be a fly on the wall in that conversation, because it's just kind of like, I've got opinions.
I feel as if they're going in the right directions, but they are making some mistakes. Like, there's some moments in the game where I have to admit, I do agree, it brought me back to those Sonic Adventure days where it was like, oh, it's like hyper serious and everything, but then there were some moments that took me completely out of it, like with the cyberspace levels and everything.
Yeah,
and some of the characters. Yeah,
they could have done away with the cyberspace levels, honestly. Those could have been
100%.
like, honestly, they could have done without it, frankly. They were literally just there for a mechanic, and it was just kind of like, but, you know.
Slightly off topic, but here's a question for you.
Okay.
So there was this modder who used to mod Sonic games, and then he went on to make his own series called Spark the Electric Jester. Have you ever heard of this series of games?
No, I haven't.
So, first of all, I would highly recommend them, but long story short, pretty much everybody was talking about this on the internet a couple of months ago, at least a couple of months ago when this episode was recorded. But they basically said, oh, it's like the Sonic Adventure 3. It's like it plays so much better than the new Sonic games. And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, this is all grandstanding and everything. But then I read the reviews on Steam and it said overwhelmingly positive. And I'm reading through the reviews thinking, no, there's a catch here. There's a catch or something. I'm going to get pranked. As soon as I buy this game, people are going to pop out the walls and go, ha, got you.
No, listen, sometimes it be like that.
Oh yeah, but I played it, and basically, as the name suggests, you play as like this kind of electric spark character called Spark. The platforming in that, I'm going to be honest, is absolutely amazing. And see, for a game that is made by a limited amount of people, I think it's mainly done by the one guy, but you know, he has other people for other resources like the artwork and the music and things. The platforming in that is absolutely incredible, and I honestly can't gush about it enough. But when I'm looking at a game like that and I'm thinking, this is amazing, it's like everything you would want from a Sonic game, because there's a lot of similarities to Sonic that he's still got in. Like, you've got a homing attack, you've got the springs, you've got the speed boosts on the levels that look exactly like the ones in Sonic. So you're kind of like, how is Sega not sued? Like, please, Sega, don't touch it, please. Don't touch my baby.
This isn't an invitation.
Yamaro!
Put the lawsuit down!
It puts the lawsuit down. But yeah, it's such a good game. And the reason I bring it up is because, and maybe this is me getting older and being jaded with games, that obviously they're games that are geared towards kids first and foremost, because that's where all the business is going. But at the same time, you've got writers like, for example, Ian Flynn, who I think does absolutely fantastic work. He is a writer that works on like the IDW comics and everything, and he worked on Sonic Frontiers. And I thought there was like so much they did well with it. But then I look at games like Spark and I kind of think, why can't we have a game like that anymore? It's hard to explain. Like, it just, the platform, everything clicks is what I'm saying. The story isn't great, I will say, in that game. The story isn't great, but everything else kind of brings you back to that feeling of being a Sonic fan. You're going at hundreds of miles an hour, essentially. Whereas you play Sonic Frontiers and it's like, I feel as if I turned into the woman from the Titanic every time I go to a 2D section or I go into cyberspace, and I'm coming out of cyberspace cyberspace going, it's been 84 years.
No, like the thing is, right? That was one of my biggest complaints with Sonic Frontiers is how easy it is. This is just a thing when you're playing a Sonic game. Sometimes you got to reset your thumb on the analog stick because you can't hold it forward that long. But good lord, the second you take your thumb off that analog stick to reset, there's no momentum. He just stops dead, and I'm just like, excuse me,
sir,
did I say stop? This is one of those situations. Like I was literally just taking pressure off the analog stick for half a second to reset, and you said apparently that equals stop to you, and you said yes, ma'am, and I'm just over here like, can you not? Like I said, I have my fair amount of criticisms, but I think you're absolutely correct in the way of saying that. I think that they are steering themselves back to the right path. And I think having Ian Flynn on board was one of the best things they could have done for the game narratively, because I think it has probably one of the stronger stories aside from a few things. And of course, there are a few things like I guess I don't want to go too in depth about it because, you know, it's still a relatively new game and there are spoilers and things like that. And I don't want to go into the big nitty gritty of it because we've also been going for a bit now. But just between Sonic Frontiers and things like the IDW comics, which are really, really good, and Sonic Prime. Have you seen Sonic Prime?
I have seen 1 or 2 episodes, I will admit. I think I saw the first 2 episodes, but I'm still to watch the rest.
I binged the entire series, and don't get me wrong, again, I have my complaints, but it is a solid series, and it is good, and I'm just over here like... Oh, we're eating good today, boys. It's delightful. And I love the fact that Sonic is sort of getting a bit of like a little bit more pep in his step now when it comes to the media and the movies. How could I forget the Sonic films?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the Sonic movies. Oh my God, they are good. Especially Sonic 2. Because like Sonic 1, first Sonic the Hedgehog movie was like a proof of concept. Would people watch like a movie about Sonic the Hedgehog? Yes, they absolutely would. Great. Sonic 2, unleash the lore.
I remember when I went to see that and I dragged my partner along because I'm like, there's no way I'm going in by myself to watch this. I'm like, I need you to come along with me, please.
It's like, you're my excuse. Come with me.
Yeah. And we went in, and obviously, because it was relatively new at the time, in fact, I tried getting in the first couple of days and unfortunately got a stomach bug. Oh, that was just horrible. So I had to like refund my tickets and then I got it when I was better. It's like, again, I don't mean to overlay the Simpsons references, but it's, you know, when Homer gets ill with a sandwich and he wants to go to Duff Gardens. That was me with the Sonic film. I was like, we gotta go to Sonic.
Listen, I'm not even lying. Like the day the film dropped, my goofy self and my partner both went to go see Sonic. I don't think we were the first showing. I think we were the second showing of the day. We went to go see the Sonic film, and on the way in, I was like, wait, Sonic Build-A-Bear. So you best be believing I drug his happy ass with me to Build-A-Bear. I made the Sonic Build-A-Bear, got the shoes, got the ring, got his voice, everything. And then you best be believing I went to the cinema, sat in the cinema with that Sonic on my lap and watched the film. And I was screaming by the end of it. I was so excited. It's like I was 14 again.
There were some moments where I was like, I don't know if that works. But at the same time, there was a lot of like lore references and things. And I remember my co-host who recommended the Sonic month that we did. He was like, oh, you're gonna love the ending. And without spoiling that, he was like, you're gonna love the ending. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then I got to the end, I'm like, oh my God, it's this and that. And then we got to the post-credit scene, and I was just like in cloud nine.
I was on the edge of my seat, like actually screaming, about to cry. I was so excited by that after credit scene. Like I said, it took me right back to being, I was like 14 again. And it was like all full circle. Like here I am, an adult with a Sonic teddy on my lap, crying in the cinema over an after credit sequence in a Sonic the Hedgehog film. Like, what events in my life led me to this moment? I'm not sure, but I'm glad I'm here.
It is good that things have come full circle, because it is one of those things that people look back at nostalgically, and I feel as if the movies do it relatively good just now. At least in the first one, you know, they have kind of references here and there, but in the second one, they really layer those references in, and it's good to have a film that works on its own. You don't have to know about all of these things, but then at the same time, if you are a fan, then it just rewards you with those kind of things. It is nice to see a bit more positivity, because I'm actually curious to hear what you have to say about this, because I don't know if you follow the Sonic social media pages.
I follow a couple of them.
The main one where it makes memes about how bad Sonic is. And don't get me wrong, some of them can be funny, but then there's some that it almost feels as if it's like normalising using that self-deprecation, kind of like, how do you do, fellow kids? I'm terrible. What do you think about that?
I think that if anything, I definitely could see it like it being like a sort of, yeah, maybe you shouldn't normalize this sort of opinion of your property and your IP and everything like that. But at the same time, I feel like that it also almost comes from a place of awareness, because you have to think about, if you're working for the Sonic team, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be there just because you're like some random Joe Blow who needed a job, right? You're going to be somebody who is probably grew up as a fan of Sonic, coming to the Sonic team to do some work. That goes for your social media managers as well. So that makes me think, right? The people who are making these memes and posting them on these official channels and stuff like that were probably fans in the same spaces that we were. And I think a lot of that sort of like awareness and the memeing about how bad some of the games were in the past comes from a place, they can definitely come from a place of familiarity, because I was like, we were there when it was all going down and everything like that. But then I also see your point in a way where it can almost be like, you know what, maybe this, like, the self-deprecating humor is funny every so often, but maybe not to this degree. At this point, I really would say that Sonic Team is really, really starting to pull themselves on track and everything like that when it comes to actually like making Sonic games that are working. And at the same time, it's like, it's not necessarily a bad thing to sort of look back and have a bit of a funny ha-ha laugh about game bad, but maybe don't make it the crux of a lot of the humor on your page.
I mean, even, I know it's a bit hypocritical of me saying that, because on my Twitch channel especially, and even in the Discord and everything, we have jokes about Big the Cat and characters like that, where I've even got an emote of Big the Cat with the thumbs up. We do it as a joke. You'll be like, oh, it's Big the Cat, oh, we can't wait to see Big the Cat. But then it's almost became like a Trojan meme, if that makes sense. It's like it snuck its way in so much so that it's just part of our everyday vocabulary. You know, you'll say, oh yeah, that was good, but it's no Big the Cat fishing minigame.
Yeah.
You know? Or when you see Big in a thing, you're like, oh, that's nice, you know, they've got Big in. Like, obviously, I wouldn't want to see a whole series based on Big the Cat and everything, but it is kind of nice that, as you said, they are looking at the past and they're kind of picking and choosing moments. But it must be really hard for Sonic Team nowadays, because going back to an earlier point I had made, it was the fact that there are so many different styles and elements and everything, like especially for characters like Shadow the Hedgehog. We brought it up earlier about Gun and their various war crimes, but the fact that Sonic lore has a canon moment, oh, how do I say this without sounding terrible, where
just rip off the band-aid. Just rip off the band-aid.
Where a young girl essentially gets shot in space, mind you. The reason she's in space, by the way, is because she is physically ill. She's got a space virus, essentially, so she has to stay up there so she doesn't get killed. And yeah, she ends up getting shot by Gun, who are of course, the military of this world. So to have something so dark and sinister, because let's face it, that is definitely one of the darkest moments of the franchise, if you're looking at the games exclusively, because I've talked in depth about the comics and how Charmy the Bee, he got absolutely abused to hell and back by the writers.
Oh geez, there was, I mean, I'm not going to go into detail about it, but there was a whole storyline where like Charmy the Bee suffered some pretty steep like psychological issues, and it's like, good lord. And even for that matter, in like the Archie comics before everything got imploded by Ken Penders, they went some places. I distinctly remember one of the comics I had, Sonic actually annoyed, and not so much annoyed, but he actually drove Eggman to the point of having a full psychotic break. Eggman was actually institutionalized because he had just been driven so close to the edge, and Sonic actually felt bad. And it's like, dude, this is heavy. Like, whoa, now I came here for funny ha-has and I'm getting like, woof.
I'm just imagining a child you reading these comics and, you know, you read the mental breakdown scene and it's just you going, he's the fastest thing alive.
No, I was a teenager. Like, I was a teenager, and I'm not even gonna lie, I already was like a really, like I said, I was bullied pretty, like I mentioned before, I was bullied in school and everything like that. So my sense of humor and my way of coping with things was already pretty dark. So this sort of thing was already not really out of the ordinary for me. But to see it just played out, there are some things where you can watch somebody have a bit of a breakdown down and it can be treated in a way that's almost funny. Like you can think about the Anastasia movie, like the animated Anastasia film, when Rasputin was absolutely going off the rails, you know, and it's treated as a joke. But then you have this where it's Eggman quite literally losing his mind, freaking out, and Sonic realizing this is happening, and he's like, whoa, now, okay, I didn't want it to go this far, actually. But then my little trauma bonding addled brain was like, this is cool. But now going back and reading it now, I'm just like, oh, wow, okay, this definitely did some things, and it went some places.
I feel as if there's a lot of tonal problems with Sonic. Personally, for me, and this might be the inner edgelord in me, so I apologise in advance, but I do like when they do a serious story in Sonic, but at the same time, I feel as if the adventure era definitely knew how to balance that, because even though you had the obvious girl getting shot, that aside, you know, that minor detail aside, it really informed a lot about that particular character of Shadow, who was just this bitter, vengeful hedgehog, you know, who was the complete opposite of Sonic. He wasn't carefree. He wasn't just playing by his own rules. He wasn't, you know, doing all these things. He was just so...
He was traumatized.
Exactly. And you would be. If you saw your best friend get shot right in front of you before you were fired at a space cannon, trust me, it makes sense in context. But
Yeah.
you saw that, you would be very vengeful. That, of course, leads to his redemption arc at the end, where he helps him save everyone. And it's just such... I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to pretend like, oh, it's the perfect story and everything. There's faults in both Sonic games, but the Adventure series, I believe, did have that kind of balance between fun gameplay, a relatively serious story, but it knew when to have fun with itself. You know, you had that where he did the flip and they kicked the egg golem in the head and everything. They literally, for some reason, flew a shuttle, a NASA shuttle, for no reason. You're like, okay, this is fun. You know, you had a lot of fun moments like that, but then on the other side, of course, you had the dark and tragic past of Shadow, which, again, I feel as if because people only saw those, like, snippets, that's what informed them when they made Shadow's, like, own game and everything. So a lot of characters from then on became very flanderized, and it did feel as if Sonic was just the, haha, I'm Quippy McQuip Hedgehog, and Tails is the smart one, and Amy is
girl.
Female Hedgehog. Yeah, exactly. She's a girl. Knuckles is the meat brain. Eggman, yeah, I've got so many conflicting opinions on Eggman, because on the one hand, I love his portrayal in Sonic Adventure, and I do love Mike Pollock. I think he does an absolutely fantastic job at the voices and Sonic X and everything beyond that, but I felt as if he was a lot more serious in the Sonic Adventure games, and then after that, they kind of made everything a joke. And don't get me wrong, I know it's for kids. I don't expect some kind of quota like a Maria to be shot every game or anything. I'm not expecting that, but there is a tonal problem when either it's too serious or it's not serious enough. It is true, because, for example, you've got the infamous Sonic Forces where Sonic gets captured and he is a literal prisoner of war and everything. And again, I'm not expecting Saving Private Ryan with hedgehogs or anything, but at the same time, you're kind of like,
but there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect because it's just like you're treating him like he's literally been gone for like 6 months, right? You don't even know if he's alive, but yet everybody is just sort of like, oh, okay, yeah, he's not here. And then he comes back and there's like nothing said about it. And I definitely agree. Like that sort of thing is definitely something that I feel is rampant in some of the newer games. But I appreciate it in Sonic Frontiers, the newest installation, right? I really appreciate the fact that while it's not perfect when it comes to the tone, they did a lot to sort of help with that, because it's like, even if it isn't something that's spoken in the dialogue, it's reflected in the characters' interactions. And even as the game progresses, like you sort of see the actual ramifications of what Sonic is going through right now reflected in his character model, even as he moves. And I think that's something really interesting. The one big thing, right, that blew my mind about it was on the third island in the game. Again, I'm not going to go into any specifics or anything like that, but it's just kind of like, okay, this is arguably when it's worse and nobody's really saying anything about it. Like, I mean, this might be something you want to bring up there, bud. I mean, are you not even gonna say, hey, you good? Or anything like that? But other than that, I feel like the way that they handled the characters made them more robust and made them more believable, specifically with Amy. Now, I'm gonna go on the record here, and again, this is probably gonna get me canceled. I cannot stand Amy Rose. No, honestly, I cannot stand her. She is like a blight on my existence, and I've always just sort of hated the fact that she is the embodiment of like the female character archetype. But what I really appreciated in Sonic Frontiers is that she wasn't just that default girl character. And there was actually substance to her. There was a consideration about her that was absent from other incarnations I've seen of her. And even somebody who who I can't stand Amy Rose, by the time I was finished interacting with her, by the time that segment of the game was done, I was like, okay, you know what? This is not bad. This is not bad. She's not bad. She actually has a personality and there's something to her. This is good. I like to see this. And that sort of theme continued on even up to Eggman. And I thought Eggman's portrayal was a little bit not so much uncanny, but it was just a little bit strange to me because it doesn't feel like him. Because again, I think I got so used to that sort of overblown, super cartoonish portrayal of Eggman that I kind of forget that this is a very, very, very intelligent man and a scientist at the core of what he does, right? The fact that he was played a little bit more methodical and calm in the delivery of his lines in this one makes sense to me. And even going back and doing the egg memos and stuff like that, listening to those, it was strange listening to him actually sound like a scientist. But it was refreshing because, oh my God, we have something other than the sort of like super bombastic mustache swirling, I hate that blue hedgehog sort of deal, you know?
He's not gonna get away with this.
The more the merrier.
Oh no. The more the merrier. Oh God. I would rather have the get a load of this and everything. Oh God.
It's no use.
Oh no. See, I think that's why I like the serious Eggman, because as we established when I was growing up, I played a lot of Sonic Adventure. So the Eggman I was used to was one who was kind of cold and calculating, but he was very reasonable. You know, he wasn't just a comic relief. I remember the scene where he threatens to physically curb stomp Tails into the ground because he's got the egg walker. And he's like, away before I make mincemeat out of you. And it's so cool. You're like, oh my God, he's a frightening man. Yeah, but then after that, it was kind of like, haha, funny egg scientist. And I remember for the longest time, I was relatively disillusioned with Sonic. So by the time I was a bit more grown up, I thought, okay, by Sonic Frontiers, Eggman was a bit more comical and everything, and they really weren't making it as serious. Because I think the tipping point for me was Sonic Colors, maybe, because it wasn't as serious as, you know, the other games. It was, oh, look, Baldy McNose here, look, it's reference A, reference B and everything, and it's not for me. It's definitely not for me, even though I don't agree, obviously, with like a lot of what they did in Sonic 06. I appreciate them for at least trying something new, and that's what I always love about Sonic. It always tries something new, but at the same time it doesn't always work, which makes it a source of ridicule. But then, of all places, there was a content creator I was watching called, I think it's the Game Apologist, and he was doing a speed reading of the IDW comics, and I remember checking it out because one day I was bored. I was like, oh, I wonder what's happening with the comics, because as you know, they cancelled the Archie comics in, was it 2018, I think?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, yeah, like that, relatively that time. And I was like, okay, what are they going to do with the new comics? Because they were continuing that off of Forces, and as you said, there was a Sonic drought those years, so we were like smacking our lips like, wait, where's the Sonic? We need content. So I ended up watching these videos. I was like, oh, I wonder what's happening. And the first arc, you know, it's just stereotypical. Oh, they fight, I think it was like Neo Metal Sonic and everything. It's a cool arc, but I was like, all right, okay, fair enough, you know, nothing special. But then shit hits the fan when they get to the Metal Virus arc, which is probably the closest that they get to like a zombie arc. And it was so good that I even did an episode. I just went away and I was like, you know, the Thanos was like, fine, I'll do it myself. And yeah, I was just like, I am doing an episode of this because it's just that good. And that, of course, is partly due to Ian Flynn, who did a fantastic job writing it and including all the characters and things. And again, not perfect, but it's absolutely fantastic for what it is. The way Eggman's written in that as well, and all the characters, is it's a way that it makes them serious, but at the same time, it doesn't seem fan-fiction-y, if that makes sense. Like, not to be derogatory, but it's not like, you know, that fan fiction that we've all written at one point in our lives where it's just you read it back and you go, Jesus Christ, what was I thinking with this dialogue? Where it's like, no, you are the evil egg or something, I don't know.
I'm honestly so glad that died with my old PC.
What died? Haha, wink wink. I'm just thinking of like your computer's halfway across the world and it's like the Jumanji drums beating.
Oh God. No, you can't. I'm not going back to prison.
What's that? It's just the PC sitting there like, write fan fiction and me into your destiny.
No, little Timmy, no.
Now that is a film I would watch.
Oh, God.
Jumanji, but with like a fan fiction PC.
Oh, listen, that's for a whole other audience.
Oh, that is terrifying. I know. That's for the OmniFan fans.
No, there we go.
Yep, there we go. We brought it back.
Brought it back. Here he is. Hey.
So, if you would like to send fan art of OmniFan to us, you can.
Oh my God.
I'm half joking because I know people won't draw that, but at the same time, I'm like, there'll be one.
Our favorite subscription will be featured on our website, omnifans.com.
If you go over to the Patreon, yes, and it's an exclusive purchase.
Again, we want to emphasize it's a joke. No such website exists. Red Panda, stop staring at me.
I mean, the Patreon does exist, but OmniFans isn't there. I just want to point that out for legal reasons.
Yeah, the Patreon does exist. OmniFans doesn't.
Yet. We'll workshop it. Definitely.
We'll get back to you. We'll have our people call your people.
Would you say the perception of Sonic fans over the years has gotten better?
Oh, God,
or
no.
would you say, okay, that's fine. That was a quick answer.
No, but here's the thing, though. My qualifier to that, right, is I don't think the perception of Sonic fans has gotten much better. I just think that the context surrounding them has changed. That's what it is to me. And I think that it's a matter of the perception of Sonic fans has aged because a lot of the people who were enforcing those perceptions have aged as well. They've gotten older. They've sort of gotten out of that mindset of, haha, Sonic nerd funny and everything like that. And I think that with the sort of new generation, a new perception is being ushered in. So I think that this new generation of fans, just in general, like fandom in general, is just sort of, it has its own sort of negative side of things as well. Because, you know, it's like, I really look towards the sort of treatment of how people have treated fans of things like Stranger Things or Wednesday, you know, like that. I've seen some treatment that for them that's not so great. But I think you get that with just about any fandom. And I think that's almost like a natural life cycle of being a fan of something. You're going to have that community where you feel you belong. You're going to have the community where you feel like you're not anyone out of the ordinary, but then you're also just going to have somebody in another camp that looks at you and goes, yeah, you're a little bit weird and I don't get this thing that you like, but that's just one of those things, isn't it? The thing is like, I don't think the perception has changed much at all because it's just one of those things that's always going to, there's always going to be a certain side of people that look at it a certain way, but then there's going to be a whole other group of people that are actually a part of it or want to be a part of it that are going to see it as it changes. And I think that's the biggest thing is just, well, that.
I feel as if it is a lot easier to find the negatives in things than it is the positives. Again, without naming any particular people, because certain people of said fandom have documentaries, they have videos on them, they have all sorts of attention on those particular aspects. So it doesn't need us glossing over it, but it's the fact that it's so much easier to look at cringe fans and then say, oh, because those fans are being cringe. Don't get me wrong, this is the thing that I think applies to both the Sonic fandom and, you know, media as a whole. I think it's okay to criticise something. It's okay to look at something and critique it and say, I don't like this, but I like this. Why don't you like this? Why do you like this? You know, and discuss, share ideas, say, I don't like this because of X. And someone might say, oh, well, if you look at it from this perspective, then you might like it. And you go, oh, okay, that's fine. But on the flip side, you have a lot of people who are clearly a bit immature. And again, that's not just for Sonic fans in general. There are people out with the community. Like, for example, there are a lot of immature fans of other content creators who they'll see their favourite content creator say, oh, Sonic cringe, lol. So therefore, that'll become their personality. And again, this isn't like Sonic exclusive, but it does mainly apply. You do see people who play older games and they'll say, oh, this is terrible, and oh, this is the worst thing ever. And people who are Sonic fans are, you know, they should be ashamed. There's nothing wrong with not liking the older games. There's nothing wrong with saying, oh, it doesn't hold up as well, or I don't like it, I don't think it's great. That's perfectly fine. But when you step over that threshold of saying, I don't like it and you should feel bad for liking this, then I have an issue with it. Then I have a complete problem. And again, it's not just applicable to Sonic, but even when I discuss things on Chatsunami, when I say, oh, I think that this is bad or I really didn't like it, that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to go and enjoy it. You know, like I've critiqued things like the worst of the worst, like Birdemic and things like that, or looping it back to Sonic, you know, I've said, oh, I'm not a big fan of the retro age because I was more exposed to the adventure age and, you know, the dark era. But when people start saying, oh, you should feel bad for liking that, oh, you should grow up and everything, that's where I don't agree. I feel as if there has to be moderation on both sides. You can't be so obsessed with something that you say, oh, you can't criticise this thing that I love because it has a deep personal attachment. And I do agree, to be very crude here, I think the phrase don't be a dick does apply here.
Oh, absolutely. Because the thing is, I absolutely agree. People are allowed to enjoy different things, and people are allowed to enjoy things in their way. And just because you don't have a personal attachment to a fandom or a series or anything like that doesn't mean that somebody who does is inherently wrong in some way. The thing is, someone's allowed to have an opinion about something. They are definitely allowed to have an opinion about something. But having an opinion just for the sake of like tearing down a group of people just for Funyun rings is just not okay. And I think that, like I said, because we mentioned before about like the Sonic fandom having a very clear vocal minority of people who just want to complain for the sake of complaining about everything. Every piece of media has that sort of faction in their fandom as well. But I think what's really different about it now is that I'm finding more and more that there are people now that are just like, you know what? Just let people like things. Just let people enjoy things. Cringe is dead, you know? Like, just let people be people. And I'm one of those people. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm still a Sonic fan. I'm turning 30 in like 3 months. I don't care. I'm here, and this is something that I like, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I don't just because I don't want somebody to laugh at me. Because, like, life's too short to worry about people don't like the little polygons on your screen that you use to pass your time, you know? It's something that holds a really, really deep place in my heart, and again, like I said before, has formed so many of my key relationships and key moments even in my life. So it's like, it's a part of me that I really can't let go of, and a part of me I don't want to let go of. And so when I say that the Sonic fandom hasn't changed or anything like that, when I say that, I don't see it as a bad thing, because when I go into a fandom, I don't immediately look at the bad part of it. I like to look at the good and what good comes from it. At the end of the day, a fandom is supposed to be, or fandom at its core is a safe place for people to enjoy media together. And don't get me wrong, there is some really shady shit that can go down in some fandoms and things like that. Again, I'm not naming any names or anything like that. Every fandom has its dark underbelly. But at its core, the purpose of a fandom is a good one. And it's something that's good for people and the people who are a part of it. I want that sort of feeling of camaraderie to remain.
Do you feel as if, though, because you brought up a very interesting phrase, and I completely agree with it, where you said that the forums that you used to frequent were the Wild West of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I completely agree, because it seemed as if there was a lot of places where it felt as if it was exclusively one area, you know, whether it was, and this is going to age me significantly, so apologies if my teeth fall out, but, you know, you had Bebo and you had all of these different websites, like you had the Mystical Forest Zone, things like that. You had to like actively seek out these groups and things, and it was quite isolated almost. But now the fact that the internet is a much larger place now, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but the fact that anybody can jump on with a mobile phone and everything, they can hop onto Twitter, they can find groups there, they can hop onto all these other social media pages, start up their characters, and it's just such a wide variety of things. And especially with the rise of new content and things, do you think that's kind of changed the way the fandom interacts with one another?
Oh, absolutely. Because like I said earlier, like the early forums were a lawless wasteland, but they were a frontier. They were a whole area of untapped potential that allowed people to connect in ways that they had never been able to connect before. And so now that as it's gone outward and gone upward and just expanded into this open air of, just up into the cloud, actually, like is a great example of it. It's just like you just have all of this space to move around and traverse and find different aspects of fandom that even I wouldn't have thought about. Like there are so many places now, and again, with the sort of bravery that people have now to just be be open with what they enjoy, to be open with what makes them happy and things like that. That is amazing to me. And don't get me wrong, there's some content out there from people that I don't like that I think is like, okay, you probably could have not gone without putting that on the internet, but that's okay. More power to you, you know? But at the end of the day, it's not my joy to manage. And if that's what makes them happy, then that's what makes them happy. Now, if the content is openly harmful and things like that, then yeah, absolutely no, get out of here. But if it's just somebody having innocent fun, like I said earlier, like I was redesigning my old OCs for like self-care, for like healing the inner child a little bit. It's kind of like in the same vein of me watching Bluey. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I'm obsessed with Bluey, love Bluey, because it makes me wish that I would have had influences like that in my life, you know, when I was a kid. So it's, people do with their fandoms what they want to do with their fandoms. They can either use it as an escape, they can use it to cope, and just as long as they're doing it in healthy ways, then more power to ya. And I think with the advent of these new open spaces that people can go to and having these fandom spaces be more accessible, I think it can be a bit of a double-edged sword, because as much as I'm singing the praises of it now, it's also made people more open and accessible to torment as well. But that's just the duality of existing in an online space. Because I mean, that's pretty much just, that was just kind of like the end of my thought, really, is just every person, when they put themselves out there for the things that they like and the things that they enjoy and exist in the fandom space openly, it's a risk that they take. And I don't think it's something that should be a risk, but it's not a perfect world. And at the end of the day, even though I can sometimes say some really like nihilistic or cynical shit, I'm an optimist at heart. And I just want people to be able to enjoy themselves and to have these safe spaces that I had growing up, because like I said, some of the best things of my life came from the Sonic fandom.
Thinking back to when I was talking about how things like Dungeons and Dragons and other things have become completely normalised by certain content creators, it is amazing how the world of content creators has kind of helped foster fans to come together. Creators like Some Call Me Johnny, Amy Jones, who did I think she did Sonic R, and she even collabed with Ryan Drummond and Jason Griffith and things, which blew my mind, can I just say? When I was like, wait, content creators can do that? These are real people? Oh my god. But no, joking aside, and my letters in the mail aside, haha, for legal reasons, that's a joke. I'm joking. But yeah, the fact that there are all of these like content creators out there that are making this content, and the other one that actually blew my mind, sorry, completely off topic, but the other one was during the 30th Symphony concert that they did, and they streamed it live, and there was a guy who does like a lot of covers called Nate Wants to Battle, I think his name is. See, just seeing him show up, I mean, you know, I'm not like a dedicated fan or anything, but just the fact that I saw this YouTuber that I used to kind of listen to his covers and think, oh, that's cool, you know, and then I saw him on this huge celebration of Sonic. I thought, that is absolutely massive, and it is just so good that even Sega and things, while they do have their faults, you know, don't get me wrong, but at least they're considering that the fan base is there, is very vocal in what it likes and its content that it's pushing out there, and they're actively encouraging that in some ways. Some ways better than others, of course, but it is great to see that content creators can get out there and then in turn hold up a wee flag to say, if you're a Sonic fan, come follow me, you know, kind of thing.
They could be celebrated for what they do.
Exactly. And then that means that you get another sense of community that, oh, you're a fan of this person because you're a fan of Sonic, and you all have this shared experience. And again, as you said, I mean, not everyone's going to have that same experience. Like you and I, of course, grew up with the retro games and the adventure games primarily, and some people, as weird as it is to think about, some people might have grown up with Sonic Colors, some people might have grown up with even Sonic, well, maybe not Sonic Forces, that's too far on.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, that's
yeah, I'm putting my foot down, that's too far on.
No, I was getting ready to say, we're going to put a pin in that one, because that is
Not yet, you know, yeah, that's the thing though, it's like, I mean, it's even like with Pokemon games or any other games that you grew up with, there's always going to be a different entry point for people, and I feel as if that is like the kind of beauty of being a Sonic fan. You can come into the franchise at any moment and have your own interpretation. Like, do you want to see silly Sonic? Do you want to see more serious Sonic that goes to space and nearly gets blown up? Do you want to see Sonic who travels the world? I'm not a massive fan of Sonic Unleashed. Like, I love the design and everything, but, you know, that's a whole other discussion. But at the same time, I see people who absolutely gush over the game and they make amazing artwork, and, you know, it gives you an appreciation of these games and things. It gives you just such a, you know, a different perspective, and I feel as if that's what people need especially in terms of the Sonic fandom, they have to tone it down a bit, I would say, in their critiques. Again, I'm not saying that Sonic fans are above critique. Nothing's above critique. Nothing's above having a critical analysis of something, but at the same time, you can't just kick down the door and call them weird and cringe. You wouldn't break into someone's house and be like, "You're cringe," and then walk away. Well, I hope you wouldn't.
We'd hope not. I mean, theoretically you could, but doesn't mean you should.
There's someone at home just like sweating going, "Oh my god, they know."
To me. But no, I absolutely agree. And I think that's the beauty of modern fandoms and everything like that. Not only do you have like the different people that can come in at different entry points and things like that, but sometimes, like, especially with the fact that it is a franchise that spanned multiple generations, sometimes you come into it through your parents or other things like that. And I think that is just so cool that there's a whole generation of kids out there growing up with Sonic who was first exposed to Sonic through their parents. Where I work, actually, believe it or not, I have a couple of people come in and their kids are super, super excited about Sonic, and then just like peeking out from like just underneath, sometimes just like, I remember actually one in particular barely peeking out from under this guy's sleeve. He had a little boy with him who had a Sonic t-shirt on. I saw the Green Hill checkerboard and he had a Sonic tattoo. And it's like, that's so cool to me. It's like it's spanning generations, and that is just so wholesome to me.
It's nice to see that there is that side, though, of the fandom still going really strong, because at the end of the day, you want to foster that positivity. I can't imagine that person's son would be a Sonic fan if he sat him down and said, "Listen, the cyberspace levels, they're terrible." You know, like, if he was very negative, obviously, you wouldn't be to a child, hopefully not. But yeah, you wouldn't have an appreciation of the games themselves. So yeah, no, I completely agree. Kind of just jumping off that point, I swear this is my last point. I remember when I went to see Sonic 2 in the cinema, of course, as I said, there was a lot of kids there with their parents, and just the amount of kids there that were just so excited about the film, you know, and they were coming out of the film and they're like, oh, saying to their parents, "Oh, this was amazing, this was so good." And it felt so good seeing that reaction, you know, even though the parents were rolling their eyes going, "Oh great, another action film that I have to take my child to," kind of thing, which, fair enough, if you're not into Sonic, that's fine. But the fact that kids were still excited, if this came out when I was young, I would have gone nuts over this film. I would have been obsessed and everything. And I mean, I still appreciate it, I still love it, but the fact that a new generation is getting a sense of appreciation, I think that's great. I do genuinely think that is such a positive thing. It's definitely something that I think for other people they have to allow to happen. Obviously, the internet's going to be the internet. Personally, I think the internet's never going to change. It's never going to let people enjoy things without having some critique, but the fact that there are safe spaces and groups and things that will stand up for you, will defend you and say, "Oh, I'm a Sonic fan," or "Oh, I like this," or "Oh, I like that." Unless you like Sonic Lost World, in which case you're a lost cause. But no, for legal reasons, that's a joke. That's a joke.
The legal team freaking out in the background.
Yeah, there's like one person right behind me going like, don't you dare, you've had enough. You're off. But honestly, Moth, thank you so much for coming on tonight and discussing your own experiences on what it means to be a Sonic fan.
Well, no, honestly, because it's almost cathartic in a way, because it's not a topic I get to talk about a lot. And sort of when you broached the idea of this topic to me, I really started thinking about like what being a Sonic fan meant to me. And then I sort of realized that it's like, at this point, it's not just a video game anymore. It's not just a flagship character who sort of took over my childhood. It's not just the games. It's not just the comics. It's not just the series, the films, or the Saturday morning TV shows or anything like that. It's a part of my life that I didn't realize was so large and distinct. And so I felt, if anything, it was just like, it was really nice to be able to talk about it and to view it through such a positive lens, because I mean, we were there, we know what it was like to be there, but some other people may not know what it was like to be there. And to sort of invoke this sense of, especially if there might be people listening who were a part of those areas, they might not have thought about it in a while, it might be a little bit of nostalgia, or for people who are new to the fandoms who didn't get a chance to experience the spaces that we were. It could be an interesting little sneak peek past the veneer, as it were. It was really nice. It was refreshing. And again, you're just great conversation. So, I mean...
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. You saw my PayPal, right?
Yeah. It's www.omnifanpaypal.com.
That's the one.
Okay, right, okay, that's fine. Omnifan 2. I must be Omnifan 1. There's only two. Only two PayPal accounts. Again, legal reasons, please don't look that up. And I'm not saying no because there is some seedy secret. I genuinely don't know.
The risk should just not be taken.
For legal reasons, we have warned you, so please don't make this into like a challenge, like hashtag OmniFans.
Oh, God.
No, honestly, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you and being able to hear about your journey with the franchise, because you're completely right. When we were growing up, and this will make me sound so old, even though I am the big 3-0, like I'm probably a year behind Sonic. But the fact is that growing up in, you know, the 90s, early 2000s, it was a tough time for people who liked geeky stuff. And don't get me wrong, gaming, at least in Scotland anyway, gaming was a little more socially acceptable. You know, people played a lot of games. I don't remember anyone being bullied for gaming. On the other hand, I remember people being bullied for things like TV shows, comics, those kind of things, if it wasn't the societal norm of the time. And by that, I mean, like, you know, if you were like a boy, you were like, oh, I like Powerpuff Girls or something like that, or oh, I like this or that, to like a game like Sonic, you know, to be able to express that to someone without them turning around and exposing you. You know, it's like saying you're a witch in Salem, and then your best friend says, he's a witch. It's like, yo, mother. Yeah.
There's one here, one over here.
There's a Sonic fan here.
Get him.
Yeah, go on, get.
Go on now, get.
I mean, Sonic probably wasn't the worst franchise to be into at the time, but at the same time, there were a lot of stigmas, obviously because of the Dark Age and everything didn't help that, and the prevalence of OCs and everything didn't help either, so on a surface level, totally, it was like a dark time. Yeah, it is good to see that people are a lot more open with what they enjoy and everything with Sonic, and obviously, like, I know I'm going to get people who are like, but Satsu, what about the weird and the dark stuff? And it's like, I'm going to throw it out there. There's dark stuff and weirdos in every, as you said, Moth, weirdos in every fandom. It's just because Sonic has like a massive spotlight on it. I feel as if that's the one that gets the most attention compared to some of the others. Obviously, OCs are maybe a wee bit more prevalent in Sonic, but you can't sit here and tell me, compared to other franchises, that there's not your fair share of weirdos and ruffians and vagabonds. All I could really say is, to summarise, just enjoy what you enjoy with this franchise. But as long as you're having fun and it's not being offensive, obviously, or anything like that, then go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Just go forth, create your OCs.
Exactly, go forth. You know, populate your personal space with whatever you wish to do. Again, as long as it is not being openly harmful or offensive, go for it. The world is your oyster, young one. Be free.
And it is sad we have to add that disclaimer, but yes, what you said, Moth, absolutely. But on that note, before we finish up, where can these lovely listeners find your content, Moth?
Well, at the moment, I've really been sort of stepping back from content creation for a bit just to focus on life stuff. But if you want to find some more of my content, of course, I am a streamer on Twitch. You can find me at WysteriaMoth on Twitch. So if you want to watch some of my old content, feel free. And I've been slowly drip feeding myself back into streaming as well. So if you like my content and you like what I do, then please feel free to give me a follow. I'm always so appreciative of each and every one that I find. Other social medias are in the works, as well as a Discord channel, and I will update those as they come.
And yeah, if you want to listen to more Chatsunami content, you of course can check out our website, podpage.com/Chatsunami. As we semi-joked about earlier, there is indeed a Patreon page now for Chatsunami, so if you want to check that out and see any bonus features over there, you can check it out at patreon.com/Chatsunami. But yeah, Moth, thank you so much again for coming on this episode and yeah, discussing Sonic.
Well, thank you for having me. Honestly, it's been so much fun. Like I said, I will take any excuse to talk about a topic that I'm really passionate about, and I could speak for the world, so I think we're good.
Don't worry, the 12-hour cut is going to be released on Patreon, don't you worry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Top tier.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the content people want to pay for.
Me just rambling about Sonic OCs.
And another thing.
And another thing.
Again, one last time, for legal reasons, that was a joke. Just in case there's one Sonic fan out there getting out the wallet going, oh man, I can't wait.
He's like, I must know.
I don't know. It's like, yes, put your wallet away. I see you. Put your wallet away. Down.
Step away from the card.
But until then, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated. Hey everyone, Satsunami here, just to let you know that we've officially launched a Patreon page. If you want to catch exclusive content from ourselves, as well as early access to future episodes, then please go to patreon.com/Chatsunami. We also want to thank our 2 Pandalorian patrons, Battle Toaster and Sonia. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. As always, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated. This episode is sponsored by Zencastr. If you're a podcaster that records remotely like me, then you'll know how challenging it can be to create the podcast you've always wanted. That's where Zencastr comes in. Before I met Zencastr, I was but a naive podcaster, recording on low quality, one-track audio waves. But with Zencastr, you can kiss those fears goodbye as they provide crystal clear audio and HD video. Plus, with our all-in-one podcasting suite, recording with guests is extremely simple. From local recordings to post-production, Zencastr has it all. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code Chatsunami. You'll get 30% off your first 3 months of Zencastr Professional. I want you to have the same easy experience I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.